Well, good evening, cyber friend. It's Mitty Man coming at you again from Walker's Music. Yeah, we get at it, people, and we must say we had a pretty good, decent evening out in Studio A today, and we made some changes and we made some arrangements and did some stuff to the equipment, much needed, and everything seemed to have been working fine. So we just come back to give everybody a report, and also to say, people, about the real Jesus people. I want to speak tonight on the real Jesus people. Let me say that again. The real Jesus people. Now, I know you might be wondering, now what in the world is Mitty Man talking about, the real Jesus people? Well, it's just as simple as this, people. What's inside of you going to come out of you. That's all I'm saying. What's inside is going to show up on the outside. In other words, you know, I remember, and God knows, matter of fact, I remember when I first came back to play for my home church, and our pastor at that time was Reverend David Johnson, and I think this was back in '98. This is actually when Floyd, my buddy Floyd Carter, he had stopped playing for Antioch at that particular time, and he had to move on. And so, matter of fact, Floyd even asked me would I come back home and play, which I would. I mean, I was more than privileged to go back home. You ought to be able to go back home when you can't go nowhere else, people. So I went back, and I was more than glad to be able to. I felt honored to be able to go back home and try to play for the choir. Floyd had played for them for over 20 some odd years, and they are a well-seasoned choir. They know my church, and I'm not bragging, but they have always really and truly, as far as I can remember, they've always been used to having music inside the service. They never had to be without music in their services, and they was well trained as far as, you know, singing and everything. They had good singers in the choir, especially from what I can remember. And then I've been told by others, older members of the church, that we've always had a real good choir. But I know the one that I'm most familiar with was choir number 2, and our past president of choir number 2, Mr. Bud, we call it Mr. Bud Holmes. And Mr. Bud was very well loved at our church. Matter of fact, he just passed away here a few years ago. And he was the president of choir number 2. He was very well known as being that choir president. And Mr. Bud was he was a character. He was very funny. He was funny in his own way. You had to understand him. In other words, Mr. Bud would say these little subtle things, but they'd be so funny. And sometimes I don't think he was meant to be for him to be that way. He was just like that. But at any rate, I was glad to go back home and play for them in '98. But I had a habit. I had a bad habit. Matter of fact, I had more than one. But I'm gonna speak of 2 of them. Smoking and drinking was two of the worst habits I had as far as on my body, that were taking toll on my body. And I can remember yet playing, and my heart was right as far as I knew. I loved the Lord, and thought, in other words, and trying to do what's right and playing. But I had a problem, and I never will forget that Pastor Johnson, his name Reverend David Johnson, he came to me. And he said, Bro Walker, he said, I'm not going to tell you not to drink. That's what he told me. He said, I'm not going to tell you not to drink. Whatever else. He said, but I'm going to ask you to try not to do it before you come to play. In other words, don't do this before your business. In other words, he told me, put the Lord before that. In other words, don't drink and then come and play the piano or the organ and stuff and sing and you're trying to send up praise, but you're under the influence. He said that's not good. He said don't do that. But he never did tell me not to drink. And this is how come I said, people. And as time went by, God knows as time went by and by, things start falling off. Things start falling off. In other words, because it was in '96. Because, matter of fact, it was in '96 when I really stopped drinking, the drinking part. So, in other words, it was just a little bit before. It was a little bit before '96. I believe it was like around '95 when Pastor David Johnson told me that. And so that made me start kind of helping out Antioch a little bit, even before 98. But I know it was right around 98 that I started playing for the church full time as a musician. But I came here tonight not to really just say nothing, but to let y'all know that I had a habit, because I did. I had a bad one. That drinking was one of them, and smoking was another. And it took a toll on my health. But nevertheless, God bailed me out. I came to my senses in time. And it was mainly because of what Pastor Johnson told me. He said, he didn't tell me to stop drinking. He didn't tell me to quit nothing, because he knew that I couldn't do it. He just told me to try not to do it before I do my business. Take care of business first. And then all of a sudden everything started dropping off. He even told me of his own ordeal. He said it was a long time. He was a deacon and everything, preaching too. A lot of stuff didn't fall off. He said things that started dropping off as time went by. He said that's the way I walk with the Lord is. And so people, let me tell you something. You got some people that they don't never want to spend but 2 minutes with God, but they can do all this other stuff all day long and all night. There's something wrong with that picture. That's all I'm saying. I'm not judging nobody. You do what you got to do, but I know what the pastor told me. And I'm a living witness now. I don't have to say what somebody else told me. I have experienced it for myself. Before I really stepped up to the plate and said I'm going to sell out for God, I was the same way. I didn't have no time for Him. But once I sold out, that's what I want to do. I want to stay in the Word. I want to stay in the Word day by day, but I know I got other stuff that I have to do. But I stay in a constant mind of prayer, even though I know I can't just stay on my knees all day. No, that is not what he's talking about. But your mindset, you should be changed. You should want to be in the presence of the Lord all the time. But you got people that quit. They don't anything. Well, I don't think it take all that. Yes, it do take all that. It don't take all that. What you doing? Don't try to criticize me, the man, or criticize the other person out there that's trying to live right, and they know that they cannot partake in the mess that we used to partake in. Because I used to be a mess. I'm talking about a show enough mess. And I didn't care, first of all, what you thought anyway. I didn't care then. Just like I am now, that I don't care what people think about me in a sense about what I do as my walk with God. I didn't care what I did when I was walking with the devil either. And I didn't care what you thought then, so I know I don't care now. But it's just a matter of the fact of the principle of people, when they can say it don't take all of that when it comes to the Lord and His Word. They can't spend 30 minutes of a good Bible study or 1 hour in good concentrated study of the Word to try to enhance yourself to walk with the Lord. Let me tell you something, people. The devil is no friend of nobody. The devil is not your friend. He's not your friend. He'd kill you just like that if it wasn't for the hands of the Lord. So in other words, if God be for you, who can be against you? And then with all of this love that God has showed toward us by giving us His Son Jesus, it looked like to me, now excuse me if I done went crazy or something, but it looked like to me that we ought to want to give God more than 2 hours on Sunday and live like hell the rest of the week. I mean, I just don't feel that I can do that. It's an everyday walk. It's just not half time. It's full time. And as a full-time musician, that's what I am. I take very seriously my job as a minister of music. And I take very seriously my walk with God as a child of God. So therefore, regardless of what anybody come and say to me, talking about it don't take all that, it don't take, I try not to say nothing. Because see, you don't supposed to go back at that. Because remember what Jesus said. He said, let the wheat and the tare grow together. And in the end, I'll do the separating. So in other words, I'm telling y'all people, you better build a better mind. What you think is too much, it might not be enough. This is Mitty Man saying whatever you get into. If God ain't in it, get out of it. God gonna come to nothing. Better listen to what Mitty Man word. One day, Mitty Man not gonna be able to sit before this camera, people. It's a fact that I'm standing before this camera now, but it may not be a fact next week. I could be gone, just like that. But these words will never go away until they all be fulfilled. Jesus said that Himself. So let's get with the program, people. Let's stop talking about what it don't take. Because it'll probably take this and some more and 1 or 2 more. This is Mitty Man saying peace. Good night.